Welcome back to another Sunday Six Gate, where today's competitors will be defenders. Let's take a quick look at those competitors, as there's only two of them, so it'll be very quick. We've got the newly built and pretty much incomplete Gate Rover on the left, and the old hand at this, all full of brass, Ironsides, the TRX4 Defender. And straight onto the course, this week's host is Leviathan, brand new sign for it there. And course conditions for the week by SoCal standards are pretty rough. We're looking at 42 degrees Fahrenheit and around 90% relative humidity, which means the course between the gates is going to be wet and probably not going to be super fun. I tried to pick a spot to lay out a course that is more rock than dirt and more high spots than low spots, so in some small effort not to get the tires excessively loaded. Worthy of note, of all the six gates up till now, this is definitely the longest in terms of overall distance. In terms of vertical, it's relatively flat. The total gain is only a handful of feet, but so much side hill. So we will see how these two big body boys manage this. On to the scoring, where this week there is a time component. So we return to the usual method of running during timed, where each competitor gets a free run, which is untimed, unfilmed, all that, and then they take two timed runs. And the fastest run of all the runs between the two competitors receives a bonus of -7 points, which is basically equivalent of one gate strike. Other than that, everything is pretty much the same. A reverse is 2, a gate hit is 7, a rollover is 10. Today's gates are Crawler Canyon Unlimited, which is 14 inches. There are no gate points, so a perfect score would be 0 minus the bonus, so -7. So let's get Mr. Spinny Wheel going and see who will be first out on the course for the day. And it lands just on the side of Ironsides, the TRX4 Defender. So he will be running first up this week. And it should be pretty telling about the effects of several pounds of brass on a and smaller class tires for a vehicle fitted with a body of that kind of weight. Because this transition right here, passing through gate 1, up until just a few weeks ago, was utterly impassable for Ironsides, who now takes it with no problem whatsoever. Like made that look Lil Yella the Ecto effortless. This is a very choppy side hill portion during which it just wants to roll over, and there's a lot of portions where the attitude of the rig is downslope, but the wheels are pointed upslope, which is a recipe to transfer the weight in such a way that you're going to fall off of the course. But Ironsides, in general, successful in using his weight, his low weight, to stay planted, and those shorter tires with some stiffer foams in them. As I've said, had this been held a couple weeks back, Ironsides would not have been able to, I don't think, even manage the first two gates. But he does remarkably well now. Little hung up there, but no need for reverse. We'll just throttle it up. It's on these moist mornings we find out how poorly some of the obstacles are actually set. The lighter of these rigs, the Gate Rover, is already north of 8 pounds. Ironsides is north of 9 pounds. I think he's around 9.5. But makes the most of it and just got a free unscored reverse there. I'm telling you, we go through these things so many times trying to catch all the little bits, but sometimes they slip by, and this doesn't count as instant replay, as what's occurring now is much later than what's occurring right there. So the scores are already in the books. This is probably, well, between of the 6, it's a toss-up. Gate 1 is quite difficult. Gate 5 is in a position that, unless the approach line is just perfect, you're either going to hit a gate, get hung up, have to use reverse. This was one of those things where the weather determined where the course was going to sit, and it was unwittingly laid out as probably the most difficult course that's been laid out so far, just because of a couple of the gate placements. So Ironsides completes his first spin around the course. He had 2 reverses, actually 3, but he only gets dinged for 2. A single gate strike and 1 rollover. So he finishes with for this course, I think, a fairly decent 21 points. Up next, it's not tough to figure out who's going to come next. There's only 2 defenders in this here fleet. So that will be the Gate Rover. Moves up to the start-finish, and this will be quite interesting, as he's essentially never driven this section, like, ever. Already getting hung up pretty well. Oh, pushes through. But right here is a part where heavy body and not a lot of brass to counteract that body pretty much usually ends up that way. Fortunately for the Gate Rover, the gate placement is pretty far back on the flat portion of those concrete, so when he gets reset, you get reset to the previous gate, so he gets reset right in front of it. If we had some sort of digital magic that I don't have access to, and we could get like an overlay of the 2 lines that were run here for the side hill portion between gates 1 and 2, a very different line of attack taken by the Gate Rover compared to what Ironsides did, purely by necessity. I think it's definitely an issue of there's no tire that's perfect for everything, obviously, but even at the limited confines of where these rigs run, the tires on Ironsides are definitely more suited to the day than the tires on the Gate Rover. I mean, the setup on the Gate Rover is still nowhere near ready. But yet he does, pretty well. Oh, could actually hear the little scrape of the gate right there. The line of attack they use there, where they just kind of land on their sides and then power through it, there's a handful of other rigs here that could not do that. Like, if they landed on their side, they would just be stuck. getting stuck pretty good. It's going to get stuck real good right here, right there. You might notice the Gate Rover has picked up a sound. I would call that a sound. Let's get a little closer. Yeah. That doesn't sound great, right? So what has happened is I guess the motor mount shifted, or the pinion deflected, or whatever happened. It ate about 6 or 7 teeth off of that spur. So that's going to give the Gate Rover a DNF for their first run. We're starting to see a lot of DNFs. I don't know if that's good or bad. I guess it definitely means the courses are getting more difficult. So you'll also notice there's another definitive sound right there. And then Ironsides will make his attempted ascent here. And I think coming around the blocks on his first run, I think that's where it cracked. And then as soon as it got under load, dropping off that first ledge, that's where it broke. So you can see that drive shaft's a little beat. And with that, for his second run, Ironsides is also going to take a DNF. It was a quick fix for the Gate Rover once I figured out what was wrong with it. I grabbed the first assembly that would fit onto the lay shaft, which is an old multi-disc associated V2 clutch assembly in the 32 pitch variety, and it's got some hard miles on it. So I think as it sits right here, the Gate Rover probably the noisiest thing in the fleet. He just got a free reverse there. Okay, so that cancels out. Ironsides got a free reverse early. Yeah, the change of a spur isn't going to alter his pretty dismal center of gravity as it sits at this point. I don't know how that's staying down. It's barely like an invisible hand came out and pushed it back up. Quite a bit of mud load in the tires. There was a good amount of mud down there at the bottom. It seems like, it's counterintuitive to me, at least. I would think that the tires loading up with mud would make them slip, but apparently there's sections of more grip than I would have anticipated, because they both managed to break parts of the driveline, which, I would have thought to see breakages like this. Well, we saw the one in Savage Lands, but no, it's getting through. That is a noisy fella at this point. As I said, that gear has had some sand ground into it in its time. Oh, that was almost a full over there. Something really has to be done with the setup of this body, because if I keep driving it like this, it's going to get ripped to shreds. It spends its much time on its sides, and the lack of TRX4 side skirts is the slider parts that the body locks into, because without those, the fenders, they stick out really quite far, and they get hung up on everything. I don't necessarily want to run the body without the fenders, but the rear fenders are rapidly turning into a problem. For all his difficulties with side hilling and that really tough transfer at Gate 1, the Gate Rover does pretty well the rest of the way. Does not really have a lot of problems. And successfully completes his second run without breakages. And it's not terrible. 2 reverses, actually 3, for 4 points, and 2 rollovers for 20 points, giving him a total of 24. And as there were only 2 competitors and 1 DNF'd 25 seconds into his run, the final scoring here is going to come up pretty quick. Ironsides had a respectable 21 on his first run, and as we'll remember, the Gate Rover DNF'd due to eating his own spur gear. Ironsides then returned the favor and DNF'd by eating his own rear driveshaft insert, and the Gate Rover finished up with a 24 on his second run, which means this thing is going to come down to who gets that bonus. Ironsides completed his successful run in 3 minutes and 54 seconds, and the Gate Rover completed his successful run in 3 minutes and 22 seconds, which means that 7-point bonus goes to the Gate Rover, which drops his final score to 17 points, narrowly beating Ironsides, who, and this is by the guy who set out the rules, I think Ironsides got robbed, because we're going to call this a Pyrrhic victory. As I don't like the way the Gate Rover handles, I'm really unhappy with it, and as soon as I pulled it in from this, we started anew.
Many hours later,
I just flipped the steering drag link around to the front. Just reversed it and changed the steering drag link, which gives it what appears to be an impossible amount of steering angle. The shock oil was changed, 50 weight in the rear, 40 weight in the front. And if you noticed from that previous photograph, the Samex cover went on as well. So this doesn't count. This is just, can those little bit of changes make a difference? And I will say, kind of, like, it just got mired in the same exact spot that it got stuck before. But it is keeping itself planted a little better. Oh, and dropped back down 2 rates in the rear. Apparently, the fenders need to sit on the tires, and what do we still have? We still have excessive weight transfer. Like, that's already fallen off. It just doesn't know it yet. There's no way to save it. It's keyed in right there. As soon as I give throttle or steering input of any kind, it's going to fall, and it does. So it went from being that line in Ancient Kingdom that was impossible to overcome to that transitional section right there. Now the side hilling got a good bit better. It's still, it's transferring way too much weight in the rear, which has brought me to, I think, a very slow to arrive at realization, which is that the trailing arm was never meant to accommodate the weight of that Defender body. It just can't. Like, I can keep adding weight to the front, and I can keep putting thicker and thicker oil and messing with the shocks, but it's never going to fix what is, I mean, let's call it what it is, a problem. That rear end, oh, what I'm doing to that body. That rear end is not built to withstand that body. So something is going to have to be done. Also, you noticed in the photo a ton of steer angle. But like right there, I have it at full lock, and the wheels that are at about half. That's a servo with 450-ish ounces of torque. It should be able to turn those front wheels. So this thing is getting completely torn down. Like, I'm not gonna say I'm not saying I'm starting over. What I'm saying is that the hardest part was building the mounts and adapters for the bumpers and the body, and that's all done. But now the suspension has to be completely redone. Uh, I will revert it all the way back to the stock axle because basically everything I've done is just making it worse. It handled what I feel the best when I brought it out the very first time after fitting the body. Every individual thing that has been done to this rig has in one way or another made it worse. And this 6 gate, which by technicality, by doing it faster than the other one, it won. But I don't, I don't feel it's the worst feeling victory ever. From the high of finally breaching that line to this, we're as low as we can go. So that modified no points doesn't count run, much, much slower than it was when it came out before, like 45 seconds slower. So that can only mean one thing. I alluded to it before. That means it's tear down time. So that's that. Congratulate the Gate Rover on his victory as he's going straight to the bench and getting completely disassembled as soon as physically possible. So I will do my best to document that procedure. So keep an eye out for that one. I'm not giving up, but some stuff is going to change. So thanks for watching this one, everybody. Ironsides got robbed. I definitely got some work to do. And thanks for watching.